The global 100% uptime plus 10 damage debuff from the new Ice Paragon is no doubt very strong, as I showed with some quick calculations in the early access video, but let's see it with our own eyes and let's push the best combos to their limits. So the best towers to pair with debuffs are low damage, fast attacking towers, and the best ones are the Tack Zone and the Sentry Champion. The 205 Tack Zone fires 32 projectiles every 0.126 seconds that each have 2 pierce, 1 damage and plus 1 damage to Moabs. So with all the damage buffs and debuffs, we can bring that up from 2 damage all the way to 30. Before the Ice Paragon, we used to be able to bring it up to 20 damage, so this tower, when max buffed and all debuffs in use, just got 50% stronger than it was in the last update, and this tower is one that was already very good when you have all of this support. So we're gonna let the Tack Zone take on something that it hasn't been able to do before, namely to solo elite Bloonarius. A 20k tower versus a tier 5 elite boss. No shinnooking it around or anything, just set it down, get all of the support and see if it can defeat the boss. The Sentry Champion has a bit more damage, 3 damage plus 1 Moab bonus and plus 1 fortified bonus, and versus a boss the fortified bonus would not come into play unless you're facing Dread Bloon, so let's say 4 damage total. We used to be able to turn that up to 22 and now we can turn it up to 32, so that's an increase of 45.45% for the S-Champ, almost as big of an increase as the Tack Zone's 50%. And keep in mind that in terms of DPS when max buffed, the S-Champ is way better than the Tack Zone because the attack speed buffs increase both the attack speed of the sentries and the speed at which the sentries are placed by the NG. So despite the Tack Zone getting a slightly larger percentage damage buff, the S-Champ is the biggest winner in terms of damage output. This tower is going to deliver some of the most insane DPS you've ever seen now. The S-Champ will also face elite Bloonarius, and then we'll also put him up against some super late game bad bloons in Sandbox to test how good he is in Freeplay now, but first let's see what the Tack Zone can do. The first few tiers are going to be pretty easy because the Tack Zone is a very strong tower for its price, so just getting it along with some cheap buffs and debuffs should do the trick. The hero we brought is Isili because her totem will be the best buff that we can give to increase its DPS. We could have gotten something like Gwendolyn to add another plus 1 damage, but that would be an increase of 3.33%, while the totem gives 17.6% attack speed and a bunch of other buffs. So tier 1 goes down very quickly as soon as I buy the tier 5 upgrade, and then I go back to farming to prep for tier 2. Here I'm adding a call to arms and a glue strike on top of what I had last time. And this takes down the boss pretty fast once again, and we are not nearly done adding buffs and debuffs. Right now it's only doing 7 damage per projectile, and 2 of those damage comes from the alk, and since it's not a permabrew yet, the tack doesn't have full uptime, so in reality it's closer to 5.5 or 6 damage. Now let's move on to tier 3. Here we've added the True Sun God, S-Brit, and the glue is tier 5 and inside of a tier 4 village range for more uptime, and we also got the Energizer, and the alk has been upgraded to permabrew, and we also got Homeland instead of call to arms, and I just started adding some ultra boost stacks. So now we're at 15 damage per projectile and we got a lot more attack speed, so now it's starting to get pretty strong, hovering at around 50k damage per second. We are gonna skip a couple of buffs, like for example some pierce buffs, the tier 5 village and the mermonkey, because we don't really need them, and I also didn't buy cripple for this tier because that tower does do a bit of damage, so I decided to wait with that one until tier 4 like a lot of things. But despite that, it takes down the boss before it even reaches the first corner. And despite me skipping out on some pierce buffs, it still has a decent amount of pierce at this point, so it can deal with all the regular rounds and the bloon rushes with ease. Now for tier 4, let's go all the way. We add the Boomer Paragon in the bottom left corner behind the tree, which buffs the attack speed of all primary towers on the map, and we also buy the cripple. Isili has leveled up to 16 for more totem uptime, and we also get the bottom path mermonkey near Isili for even more totem uptime. I also got some tier 4 Desperado range buffs, because why not, and finally the Ice Paragon. This one I placed near the start of the track, because since the debuff gets applied globally, it doesn't need to be near the boss, and even though the Ice Paragon doesn't do a lot of damage, I can easily minimize it by placing him near the start of the track, where he will always attack regular bloons and keep applying the global debuff without attacking the boss, and I also set him to target last to minimize the damage further. I got some tech bots so I don't have to use every ability manually, and then I just watched it go to town, and once again it took down the boss very fast. As soon as it had made the first turn, it was gone. Now for the final test. Can it take down tier 5 elite Bloonarius? This one had me a bit worried to start, because during the first smallest loop, where it does the majority of the damage, I felt like we were falling behind a bit. Because it's not gonna do much damage in the middle loop when it's so far away from the tack, and in that loop it only passes over the Tack Zone once, so during this loop we got the boss down to about 2.5 skulls remaining, but can we really take out that much in the final stretch? The first skull actually got taken out by the Boomer Paragon, whoopsie, but we still couldn't do it, and that's despite that I used the Ice Paragon's ability to skip the final skull. But then I realized that we haven't really max buffed the Tack Zone yet. We could redo the fight and this time rebuy Homeland over and over for 100% uptime instead of alternating with Call to Arms. So that's what I decided to do. Now, about the Ice Paragon's ability, it can only skip one skull per boss tier, even if you get the ability off cooldown and begin another round. It's still limited to one skip per tier. Now, it is able to apply the slow to bosses more than once per tier, which I didn't realize until later, so maybe I could have used the ability more than once during the fight for the slowdown and beaten it that way, but turns out this works too. A 20k tower can now solo elite Bloonarius without even Chinooking it. Well, calling it a 20k tower is pretty funny when you have over 1 million in support, but still, it's pretty crazy that it can actually do this now. It's that powerful. Now let's try out the Sentry Champion. This time I'm playing balanced and we're jumping right into tier 1. I get the tier 5 upgrade late and then add a tier 4 Embrit buff and also a tier 4 Alchemist, and I also remember to use Asili's Totem. This works very well, it takes out the boss fast and deals with the rushes as well, with the Sentry explosions being very helpful to that end. For tier 2 we added an Overclock, Glue Strike and a Call to Arms. This one was a bit tougher. I was actually leaking to rushes sometimes and I had to back out, so I probably should have added a little bit more support, but in the end this was just fine. For tier 3 we start applying Ultra Boost stacks, and we also got the Homeland and Call to Arms to alternate, and I also upgrade the Ice to Esprit for more debuff damage. This kill did take a while as well, but we weren't close to leaking like last tier, because while it did take a long time to kill the boss, we still have a lot more DPS to take care of the rushes very quickly. And since we started the fight with 0 Ultra Boost stacks, the fight went by quicker and quicker as we added more, and I also got the Perma Brew during the kill. For tier 4 we added the True Sun God, Energizer, Glue Storm, Cripple and Ice Paragon, etc. So now we are pretty much maxed out. The only thing I'm missing is the Mermonkey for more totem uptime, which I got next tier. At this point I started lagging a lot, which kind of surprised me. I mean, sure, it's a lot of projectiles, but the lag felt very different than what I'm used to. It was very stuttery and sometimes I got random longer freezes, so I'm speeding up the footage a lot here. Hopefully it's not too annoying to you, but it certainly was when playing at normal speed. This tier went by super fast though. The boss didn't even have time to get into the center where it loops around a couple of times, and that's what I mean when I say this tower has a lot more potential than the Tack. And then for the final tier, now we are maxed out, and I also place an NG to block the left side spawns in the beginning so that all sentries can reach the boss on the right side of the map from the very start of the fight, and then I sell the base NG later. While the Tack Zone really had to give it everything it had to beat this tier, the S-Champ doesn't even struggle. For this one I'm not even rebuying Homeland, which again affects this tower much more than the Tack or any other, and despite that I still end up taking down the boss with some time left to spare on a map that is shorter. I also didn't even need to save the ice ability to skip the final skull, because it takes down the fortified bads so fast anyway that they weren't even close to leaking. What this tower can do now is just insane. Having this guy max buffed plus max debuffs was already rivaling a lot of paragons, and now it's even crazier. But let's finish off with some freeplay testing, because this is a great freeplay tower, and here we also have use of the +1 fortified damage that isn't as useful in bossing. Here we got the same setup as before, and I'm also refreshing my abilities to simulate that I'm rebuying Homeland for 100% uptime, which is really powerful for this tower. First, a round 200 fortified bad. This one gets pretty much insta-deleted, basically a blue Moab, no problem. Now let's try a round 300 fortified bad. This one obviously takes a lot longer, the HP ramping gets pretty rough here, but it does take it out in time, which is very impressive. Now let's step it up even further with a round 350 fortified bad. Now it's getting really tough, but once again it actually does pop it open while it was doing the final loop towards the exit. And then after that I also tried a round 400 non-fortified bad, and that worked too. It popped a bit earlier. This tower is a must-have for any freeplay run, absolutely insane now. The amount of extra power that the Ice Paragon brings to some towers is just off the charts, and super buffing towers like this I think is just so much fun. What other cool things have you done with the Ice Paragon so far? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.